those efforts and that there was an urgent need to surge aid in Gaza. Well, let's speak to Behnam Taleblu, a Middle East analyst at the Foundation for Defence of Democracies. Welcome to you. Thanks very much for being with us. Hopefully, I think you were listening into that news conference. What did you make of it? Did it feel to you that the situation is shifting?
Well, it's a pleasure to be with you. I think there's three broad pillars of what I think is now Secretary Blinken's sixth trip in the past 5 months to the post-October 7 Middle East. Pillar number one, and you heard both the Secretary as well as his Egyptian counterpart stress this, the need for a ceasefire. Number two, the second pillar in the Secretary's comments was about aid, in particular humanitarian aid, scale, quantity, limitations, impediments. And number three is about governance, the ability to actually build on top of that. I actually think what this trip may have been all about for the Secretary was about getting input from traditional U.S. partners in the Middle East as to what that kind of post-Hamas governance in Gaza may look like. Areas of significant divergence do exist between the other major pillar of U.S. foreign policy in the region, which is Israel, in the sense that if the Secretary thinks that a hostage deal and a ceasefire agreement will buy political space for termination of the conflict, that's about 180 degrees opposite from what the Israeli establishment is saying, which is the need to continue all the way through Rafah to achieve the military goals that they had set out.
Yeah, he did talk about Rafah, didn't he? And warned against the conflict spreading there with more than 1 million Gazans displaced there. He also referenced the US circulating for the first time a draft UN Security Council resolution calling for an immediate end to fighting and the return of the hostages. This is the first time they've done this. What do you make of the timing, the fact that they've done it in the first place, and obviously the timing, given that he's going to be in Israel tomorrow?
Well, indeed, it is a bit of a change, but we have to disaggregate something. The U.S. has long been calling for the return of not just some, but all hostages. That's been a consistent theme in the public and private messaging of the Biden administration. But tying that together towards a more proactive approach for a ceasefire in the UNSC, that I think is the first, and that I think is driven by both domestic U.S. political push and pull factors, as well as personal relations between the Prime Minister of the State of Israel, Bibi Netanyahu, and U.S. President Joe Biden, as well as, of course, disagreement over longer-term objectives, but agreement over shorter-term objectives. We know that, for instance, both sides, meaning the U.S. and the Israelis, had sought or wanted a ceasefire in the lead-up to the Muslim holiday of Ramadan, which we are now almost 10-plus days into. So, in essence, this is the U.S. trying to repackage all of that and take it to the UNSC.
He talked about ongoing discussions to try and secure a ceasefire deal. We also know that in the coming days, Mossad are going to be part of a delegation going to Doha to discuss this. Where do you see movement happening there, and also with regards to Hamas accepting a deal?
I certainly think a lot of the U.S. and even Israeli meetings in Qatar are some of the most underlooked but most important elements as to how any kind of ceasefire or hostage deal is going to be phased, or has been phased in the past, I should say. The fact that you have a major intelligence presence there, not just the trip of U.S. CIA Director Bill Burns, but soon to be more Mossad chiefs, the fact that most of the Israeli negotiating team, at least reportedly, is composed of Mossad members, that, in my view, is quite significant. That means that this is not about a political charade or about standing with partners publicly or talking about regional integration or normalization. The conversations, I think, that are going to be held in Qatar are going to be based on real hard facts on the ground, hard truths, bitter truths, and real trade-offs for what every side may not want, but will at least settle for.
OK, Behnam Taleblu, thank you very much for joining us from Washington.
Thank you.